Have you seen the Alex Jones-Megyn Kelly interview? If you haven't, I don't recommend you do, but feel free. For anyone hearing the name Alex Jones for the first time, Alex is essentially the face of InfoWars, an alternative media outlet whose credibility is questioned even inside parts of the alternate view community. However, to many, he's the face of conspiracy theorists, like anyone who questions climate change, right? Look, I know it's unpopular, and without going into detail, because this isn't what I want this topic to be about, I once had a passenger tell me climate change is real because lots of scientists and lots of studies prove it. While that's somewhat fair, I politely inquired about these studies, to which he wasn't able to respond in any degree. Come to find out, he hadn't actually investigated or researched the matter himself, but, as if simply on faith, took the words of men as his inherent truth. While the climate is indeed changing, he was lacking, by no fault of his own, the knowledge of the geoengineering component. See, climate change is likely less attributed to global warming and more so exacerbated by the active weather manipulation campaigns akin to stratospheric aerosol injections, solar radiation management, or atmospheric modification. If you aren't taking into consideration these impacts, you're waging an incomplete argument, at best. This is similar to the scenario we find ourselves in with the political arena. People may know the ins and outs concerning the facts of the donkey and elephant show, but not only is that what the establishment wants, if you aren't taking into consideration aspects like rogue multinational corporations with vast lobbying power, a network of well-connected low people in high places, or the convoluting and controlling of key policies and reform, you're seriously missing the man behind the curtain. Like with Jones, by establishing this conspiratorial dialogue in conventionally consumed news networks, it allows the media to control the narrative in its favor. By parading characters like him who, to some degree, represents truth advocates, at least to the uninformed, they achieve an effective outcome: the stifling of contrary fact and opinion. For those individuals who religiously subscribe to the mainstream, when certain subjects are breached, like some form of hypnosis, the conversation is over before it begins. I think the overall general idea encompassing hypnosis, in part, is why so many seem unaware of or unwilling to have a candid conversation about what's going on around us. Hypnosis in its most basic form is just a relaxed lack of critical thinking, a state where you often become suggestible. There are different kinds of hypnosis. Clinical applications are used for therapeutic purposes known as hypnotherapy. Conversational hypnosis can be achieved by inflection of tone and pitch in one's voice. If you've ever been driving and by the time you arrive at your destination you find it difficult to recall certain parts of the trip, even a route you're familiar with, you've fallen victim to something called road hypnosis or highway hypnosis. However, there is another type that remains widely unscrutinized: mass hypnosis. Traditional television programming is typically set up in a manner where you're watching about 20 or 45 minutes of actual content, depending on the broadcast, while brief segments of commercial interruptions intermittently air, making up the rest of the allotted time. But just minutes after focusing your attention on the television, the brain starts to enter alpha mode, a state of relaxation conducive to hypnotic suggestion. While in that sedated state of mild hypnosis, you become suggestible and subject to stimuli at a subconscious level. This is the state of consciousness those brief segments of commercial interruptions aim for, which can actually lead to the imprint of thoughts and ideas in the mind. Another great example of mass hypnosis was Obama's campaign slogan, "Change." When Obama promised change, in absence of details specifying what that change would encompass, we projected an idea of what that change might look like. In doing so, change meant something different to each individual, no doubt personally resonating with their particular circumstances. Personally, for me, change meant pocket change because that's about all I ended up with after Obama's special brand of affordable care, which, for those paying attention, was neither. Right now, people seem to be in a hypnotic state, unaware of what's going on around them. So, what is going on around them? Lodges around the world will be celebrating the 300th anniversary of Freemasonry this year. Worshipful Brother Matthew Tripp, Worshipful Master of Mount Zion Lodge No. 9, Free and Accepted Mason of Ohio, puts the anniversary into perspective. On June 24th, 1717, in London, England, 4 lodges decided to create the Grand Lodge of England, W.B. Tripp explained, and this structure of organization was continued for 3 centuries and spread around the world. Masonic lodges existed a long time before that, W.B. Tripp said, but the 1717 date represents the basic creative step in the overall continuity and agreement of principles that still govern the international fraternity we have today. This celebration comes shortly before the Bohos meetup at Bohemian Grove, the 2,700-acre campground located in Monterey, California, where the Bohemian Club meets privately for 2 weeks every year, typically in mid-July. The Bohemian Club and guests include U.S. presidents, government officials, business leaders, and other prominent figures. There is an incredible amount of discretion and secrecy surrounding what transpires during this cultic gathering of the world's most important men. However, while he was still working for the people, if he ever was, Alex Jones, the Texas-based filmmaker I mentioned in the beginning, infiltrated the camp with a hidden camera and exposed some extremely troubling footage. Some of the footage, which can be viewed online, reveals a satanic cultic ceremony where our leaders don outfits and robes to perform mock rituals and sacrifices before a 40-foot owl effigy. Now, before I touch on this next subject, I direct you to a portion of the editorial note from Patrick Archbold, the author of the article the following information is derived from. In the following article, I intend to present a series of facts and observations from which I draw no definitive conclusion. Yet, these facts and observations are of such a nature for no other reason than their observation and reporting that lends themselves to misinterpretation. So let me be clear, in the following article, I predict nothing. Well, with that out of the way, many have already pointed out that a great sign is said to appear in the heavens on September 23, 2017. This is based on an article published on remnantnewspaper.com, again, authored by Patrick Archbold on October 29, 2015. Patrick makes an interesting connection between astrological events and the Bible, specifically the Virgo constellation and the woman clothed in the sun described in the book of Revelation in chapter 12, verses 1 through 5. Now, give credit where credit is due. This is an astute observation, but again, not a prediction of coming events, so take it for what it's worth. There is, however, another astrological event being interpreted as a sign of the times, if you will. I'm talking about the total solar eclipse that will take place on Monday, August 21st, 2017. What many are pointing out about this eclipse is that the path directly cuts across America, splitting it in two, no doubt metaphorically highlighting the literal division America has been experiencing in recent years. As long as we allow ourselves to remain sedated and hypnotized, we will fail to recognize the signs that may indeed indicate we are likely playing out the last few scenes of an overall master plan. I highly recommend, no matter who you are, putting on the full armor of God. We all need prayer and guidance, me included. If nothing else, the next few years are going to be pivotal in determining how many of us escape from this control grid.